think it's working. Well, welcome get started first. Welcome to your daily dose of salt and light with myself, Nadine Ness. I think I've got Instagram working now. So I think from what I can see is working. I'm gonna I'm probably gonna need to get a third screen because I guess Instagram doesn't have the comments showing up on StreamYard. However, the other platforms do. I was also working on trying to get TikTok to work, and I've spent the last hour doing that. I had to go live on TikTok first for like 25 minutes minimum in order for it to approve the live stream. And I did that. I did that this morning. So some of you who are watching me on YouTube or Twitter, I sent you there after I couldn't get it working. So, but anyways, I have what I think is Instagram working because I'm seeing people join in. If you're watching from Instagram, say a comment. I want to see how it's going to show up, if it's going to show up normal. And if you're watching from Facebook or Twitter, let me know where you're watching from. I see Jeffy, my friend Jeff, who I used to drive motorcycle with, says hi. So show that here. So he's watching from Facebook. I've also amended some of the settings on Facebook. Before, you weren't able to comment unless you were like my Facebook friends or unless we were Facebook friends. I've just changed that. So now you should be able to. And I just realized yesterday, just give me a sec. I got to adjust this camera. I gotta move this. Well, there you go. I just don't want to get the window too much into it because then it ruins the lighting of the whole studio. Do I have it set up right? No. I just realized something. There you go. Ah. Oh, now I can't get it working right. There you go. I should have probably set that up before. I didn't realize the top one wasn't working. Anyways, I'm getting distracted because now I have a whole bunch of other platforms working. So I'm seeing some of that happening. But and I heard yesterday in the comments that my mic was still making like a digital sound. So last night I went quick. If you saw it last night, I went quick on live with on Facebook and Twitter with my husband. We're trying to fix it and get it working properly. So it was just a faulty cable, I guess. So we've learned it was a faulty cable on the Focusrite. So if you're hearing this, is it clear? Because yesterday I didn't have like all the other platforms. So it could potentially still cause issues because I have all the other platforms, but I don't think so. Is it clear? Or are you hearing like a digital sound? I'm hoping it's fixed now because especially I want to have it running properly before Friday because I have a pretty big guest coming on Friday. I have Bruce Purdy. I never know if I'm saying it right. I'm just going to search him quick. I think it's Bruce Purdy. Bruce. Or is it Party? Party. He's coming on Friday. I'll get it right before he comes. And I hope he's not watching this show. He's going to be like, get your stuff together, Nadine. You can't even pronounce my name right. Anyways, so he's coming on Friday. We have a lot to cover. And I'm going to be talking about Facebook. I'm going to move myself because I realize I'm not in the middle of the screen. And when I switch to talking about Facebook, I'm going to be showing different screens. So hopefully the size will be great just because I have a little bit of different content today than normally. It's mostly on X and some of the video, but some of it I want to share some of the stuff that's happening with my own personal account, Meta account. So I'll get started. Mark Zuckerberg made an announcement yesterday And I'll play that video for you guys. First, I just realized I didn't put it in my video playing screen. So I'll just do that quick. Get it ready to
important today because it's
then we'll switch it here. There you go. We're going to watch it together. It's 5 minutes long, but I think it's worth it to hearing what he has to say. And then I'm going to talk about it a little bit and share my personal experience of with Meta and being censored or having my profile not recommended. And I'm going to show you guys why. I'm very careful with what I talk about and what I post about. I'm very careful with my messaging. I still get the truth out there, but I do it very strategically. So when you see the post that got like flagged, you're going to be like, what? It makes no sense. And it really doesn't. I'm going to move closer too. But anyways, let's watch this video together.
Hey everyone. I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected and
Okay, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to pause and talk a little bit um, for the viewers. If you're not on X, you wouldn't know what community notes is. And I'll finish playing the video after. But when something gets posted, if you're one of those approved people to do a community note, somebody can write a note on it. I'm going to show you guys an example of what that looks like, and then we'll go back to the video. I just realized I should probably have gotten one ready. But I'll just scroll until I find one. They always community note. And like not all the ones that are posted are seen by everyone. Like until it's gotten a rating, then nobody's going to see it unless you're one of those people that is approved to rate community notes. I'm one of those people. I'm just waiting to see if I can find one. Here, they do it to Elon a lot, so I'll just search Elon. Because if you're on Facebook and not on Twitter, you wouldn't know what this is and how great this is. Here, let's click on Elon. Or maybe I won't see it because it's on. Okay, this is one. Okay, here you go. I'll share this with you. So Elon Musk posted, if the people of Greenland want to be part of America, which I hope they do, they would be most welcome. So right now there is not a community note yet, but there is one recommended. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. So someone said Greenlanders are more inclined to support independence, 77.7% polling done. So basically someone is saying, I want to add context to this. Quite often when they do ones on Elon Musk, it makes no sense. But, and then somebody can say, here, the poll is 2019 is relatively old. Second, Elon is not stating anything that needs additional context. So you'll have somebody who will do a note, you'll have someone who will rebut, and then you have to rate if it's useful or not. And once enough people from both sides, from the people who usually support these people's posts and the people who are usually against it, once enough people rate it, then it potentially gets posted in if it's rated as being good to add. So you're seeing that a lot on Twitter. A lot of people are being, I guess, community noted. I'm going to see if I can find one just so you can see. And what does that do? Well, you have to have people with both different views agree that this is inaccurate information. So it's less likely to be biased. Obviously, there's been times where there's been coordinated attempts, and you've seen that on the left and on the right, where there was coordinated attempts at putting a community note that shouldn't have been there. But it's very rare because you need both sides to kind of agree on it, if that makes sense. I'm just gonna see. So it's less likely to be biased. Like if you have like moderators like Facebook has, they're almost all left leaning. I'm trying to find one. Oh, he's just bringing up Mark Zuckerberg's post. Trump often gets, well, not really. Anyways, if I find one when we play the video, I'll keep looking. If I find one, I'll show you guys what it actually looks like when it's community noted. But I think this is a really great move from Facebook. However, there's other things he says that's a bit concerning, but we'll share the rest of the video here.
In 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive.
Gender, if you posted about gender stuff on Facebook, you would get like huge alerts, all of that. So basically they're saying they're going to take that out. So the posts that are talking about gender are now going to be more allowed. Again, I haven't seen this yet. He just announced this. It's probably going to take some time to take effect, but like immigration's another example where if you even go back and think back at the time of Twitter before it became X, there you couldn't misgender someone. Your account would be permanently banned. You could even talk about gender. Your account would be permanently banned. Never mind like the COVID stuff. Same thing. Your account would be silent. It's banned. Anyways, he's saying that they're going to be taking those restrictions out, that conversation will now be allowed. But I mean, someone said here, I don't buy what he's trying to sell. He was all in on censorship. I'll just show that comment quick. And yes, but was it only Zuckerberg or was it the entire organization? Because they're in Silicon Valley and they're very much left leaning there. So if the majority of the employees at the organization are left leaning, then you're going to have that problem. You had the same problem with Twitter before Elon Musk bought it. Now, there's a whole bunch of people that saying he's a snake. He's just doing this because he knows he's going to get in trouble. He's pandering. I've heard all of those things. But we have to recognize a lot of the people that we're currently supporting, like Donald Trump, for example, used to be on the left, used to be a Democrat. But yet you're still supporting him and putting him on a pedestal. Not everyone, but some people. Now, if we rule out anyone who is on the left, then you might as well not watch me because I used to be a lefty. And you have to recognize that some people can be waking up to the realities of the world and can change their mind. And to be honest, I trust way more someone who used to be on the left and changed their mind and started seeing the reality for what it is and has now decided to make a change. I trust that way more than someone who's so dead set on their ways and are not willing to wake up or recognize that they may have been wrong in the past. Either it's pride or ego or whatever. I would rather have people even in leadership position. That's why some of the best leaders in political world used to be previously left-leaning people who have now become conservative. You have Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, RFK Jr., perfect example of some people who used to be on the left that are now awakened to the realities of the world, and they want to make a positive change and see that on the conservative side. I trust people like that because I know they have an open mind to changing their ideas if they're proven that the way they used to think is actually harmful to society. And I do think Mark Zuckerberg is one of those people. And I'll talk about why I think that later on. But it has to do with the people he surrounded himself with. He's really into like um, MF, MF, MMF, MFA. What's it called? Like FFA, the fighting, the I don't know the term. If you know it, write it in the comments. But Dana White and Joe Rogan, he's been hanging out with all of those people who have different perspective. Joe Rogan used to be on the left too. I don't know about Dana White, but he's been hanging out with these people. They're his probably closest friends now. Like you become what you surround yourself with. They say you're a reflection of the 10 people you surround yourself with. And I fully see Mark Zuckerberg changing his mind on MMA. Thank you. Thank you for what does MMA stand for again? I can't remember. If you can write it in the comments. But yeah, he's been hanging out with these people. So I think he's honestly changing his perspective, and he's recognizing the grave error that has happened. And he's talking about the grave errors that have happened in this video. Was he a part of it? Yeah. But I like the fact that he's addressing it. He's doing something about it and trying to change it. Time will tell if it will be effective and if it will be true. But anyways, I'll keep going on the video here.
Has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that...
He's saying the mistakes are the vast majority of censorship. Like he's not just saying that it was just a few mistakes. He's saying all of the censorship, almost all of it, are mistakes. So he's addressing how bad it's been.
Scanned for any policy violation. Now we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start...
Rewind quickly.
But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So
like when politics and stuff like that, they were silencing all of that because they felt people didn't want to see it. Who didn't want to see it? The people on Facebook or the people that worked at Facebook?
We're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump.
So he's moving it to Texas. like I said earlier, California is very left leaning. So the majority of the people that would work there would be left leaning. So it couldn't not be biased. So he's saying the content moderation is being moved to Texas, which has both. I guess Texas is conservative, but it also has liberals in especially in the city. So I think it'll be a little bit more balanced, which I think is a good mix. Good move anyways.
Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
Anyways, I think this is good news. I think this is good news for Facebook, good news for Instagram. Just so you know, this is Meta. So Meta is both, I think, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. So again, what did it look like? I'm going to share an example of one of the censorship that my account has faced. I've been pretty lucky so far because I kind of, again, stay away from certain language, even though, and my personal Facebook was never one that I used for like my activism per se until I started doing this show. So, and I haven't been flagged yet for this show, but I do have one flag here. I just got to share the screen. I just, for some reason, the chats were showing up there. So this is my own Facebook. So you guys can follow through. This is my profile picture. I am going to be changing it, amending it so that it matches Twitter and Instagram and stuff. But then I lose my badge for a short period of time. I didn't know that, or I would have changed it before. But so in order for my profile to be recommended for people, I need to fit a certain kind of criteria. So when I was trying to change some of the settings on Facebook, it's one of the things that came up that my profile recommendation was not happening. And I'll show you guys. It says, we're helping you grow your audience because profile like yours bring people together. Your profile is now in lists where it suggests profiles to new people. And then it says, we can't recommend your profile's content. You have options to help fix content issue that might impact your recommendation status. So it talks about other stuff too. So if I click on review profile content, this is one post that Facebook is saying they don't want to see. So what I could do is delete it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait till they do the changes, and you can't even appeal this. You can't appeal it. There's anywhere where you can appeal it. So this is what my post that I shared, it was flagged as false. I'll show you guys the post. And it says, this may go against our guidelines on suggested content. This post shows content independent fact checkers say is false, which goes against our guidelines for suggested content. So this was the post. This is my own words. I don't know what in here is false, but This is my post. I'll read it to you. And some of you may have seen it on Twitter. I posted kind of everywhere. It kind of went viral on Twitter and Instagram. Anyways, these are my thoughts. I used to really dislike Trump. I thought he was arrogant, crass, and prideful, and I felt the US could do better. While he may partly be those things, the way the legacy media twisted everything he said actually got me to start waking up to how much we are being deceived every day by them. The more I looked into his life before politics, his policies, his actions, and how they helped the American people, I started slowly changing my mind. After the events of yesterday, I posted this the day after the assassination attempt on Trump's life, where he was shot at and it hit his ear. After the events of yesterday, my mind has 100% changed. Trump is exactly what America and the world needs. When you're put in a life or death situation, it shows the world what you're made of. In that moment, Trump showed the world the kind of leader he is. He showed that when under fire and under attack, he will always stand for the American people, even if that means a great sacrifice to himself. On what was likely one of the worst days of his life, he inspired a nation. He inspired the world. If America wants to be the greatest country in the free world again, it needs a leader like that. As a Canadian looking to the US as our greatest ally, may God protect President Donald Trump and may God bless America. And then it has this warning of this warning of sensitive content. I'm going to show you the photo. This is the photo that I posted. So in order for me to have my profile recommended, I would need to delete this post, which I think is completely ridiculous. I'm going to see if there's a way I can reach out to Meta. But this gives you an idea. What about that post is incorrect? These are my thoughts, my opinion. Like this is my experience, my real life experience and how I've changed my mind. Like I used to have like Trump derangement syndrome. I used to be one of those people. And it's true. I've completely changed my mind. And that's it again. Why I think it's important that we don't rule out people like Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm not saying trust the man 100%. I'm not saying we should trust anyone 100%. But I don't think we should rule out people because they used to have a different mindset. If especially when they've awakened to the realities of what the wrong that was done and they're taking accountability and they're making changes for that. But yeah, it's just interesting to see when I was trying to get my Facebook like to be recommended, my videos to be recommended to people, I I have that like flag on my account. Well, I'm not obviously not going to delete that post. I agree 100% with it and there's nothing false about it, but it's just being flagged. Probably because of the photo. I imagine that photo was flagged. Anyone who posted it just automatically flagged it. Somebody at Meta probably did that. So because if you use that photo, it's most likely that you're supporting President Trump or gonna be writing something positive about him, which they probably didn't want, especially since Meta was kinda like the censorship kinda extreme. But anyways, I posted it on Meta too. I didn't, not on Meta, on Instagram, I believe, or maybe not. I'm just gonna see. I'm seeing some people on Instagram, but I'm not seeing comments. So if you're watching from Instagram, say hi. I'm not seeing live views there, but I am on Facebook. I see comments on Facebook and Twitter. Okay, so Freedom Warriors here says, "Well, that's a huge move." It is. I don't and MMA is mixed martial arts. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I couldn't believe I couldn't remember it. But it's true. Like this is a huge move when a lot of people are not on Twitter. A lot of Canadians are not on Twitter. So if now we're starting to have platforms that will be more open to free speech, I think this is a huge win and it's something that should be celebrated. And Maria says that's harsh for a post that seems completely fair. Yeah, Like, it's not like I posted it, like, I guess I did call Trump crass or whatever, but all of that is true. Like, he used to be all those things, and he probably still is, like I said. That's just his personality, but he's also a very kind person, and he's done a lot of good for a lot of people that you never hear about. He and but yeah, the fact that that got silenced is or flagged, it to me is so insane. But anyways, next subject. It's since we're talking about Trump, first of all, I wanted to share other big things about Meta. So Dana White says, I love social media and I'm excited to be a small part of the future of AI and emerging technology. So, Dana White, remember I said that Mark Zuckerberg's now friends with Dana White? He's just been added to the board of directors at Meta. This is huge. This just goes to show the direction Meta is going in. And I'll just see here if I click on this, if you can see it. And it's a statement by Mark Zuckerberg. I haven't read it yet, but it says, I'm excited to kick off the new year with some news we've been working on for a while. Dana White, John Elkann, and Charlie Songhurst are joining Meta's board of directors. We have massive opportunities ahead in AI, wearables, and the future of social media, and our board will help us. Sorry, excuse me. I'm drinking too much tea. Will help us achieve our mission. Dana is the president and CEO of UFC. That's what I wanted to say, the UFC. Not, well, I guess MMA and UFC, it's the same thing. Um, and he has built it into one of the most valuable, fastest growing, and most popular sport enterprises in the world. I've admired him as an entrepreneur and his ability to build such a beloved brand. So that was just announced. Let's see here on January 6th, so yesterday. So Dana White comes on the board. Mark Zuckerberg does this big statement. And just keep in mind, Mark is going to be accountable as well to his board of directors. So I see this as an opening of free speech on way more social media. And we got to recognize again, not everyone's on Twitter. So the fact that there's going to be even more free speech on other platform is a huge win that we should be completely celebrating. Do I say you need to trust Mark Zuckerberg with your kids? No, no. It's but it's still recognized that it's a step in the right direction. A step that we probably didn't think we were going to see. Like, remember during COVID and all the craziness was happening, all the censorship was happening, and we kind of couldn't see like the light at the end of the tunnel or an end to it. Now looking back, we're now 3 years later and we're seeing all of these changes. To me, that's like a huge, huge win. Now, on the topic of Trump, I know we were talking about Mark, but I had that post about Trump. Trump's made another tweet yet again. This was posted yesterday at 3:30 p.m. So I'm going to read it out for those who are listening and not watching. Many people in Canada love being the 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficit and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. If Canada merged with the US, there would be no tariffs, taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Together, what a great nation it would be. So so I'm gonna share my thoughts on this. So Trump is not ending. I'm not sure this is trolling anymore. Now that we're getting rid of Trudeau, sort of, sort of. I know in my title yesterday I said Justin Trudeau resigns. Technically, he's not resigning yet. He's announcing that he's resigning once they find a new leader. But the good news about it is after the next election, there will for sure be no Justin Trudeau. And to me, that's a huge win. But so it looks like he's like seriously considering this. Now, what do you guys think? what does my viewers think about the I guess the positive and the negative of joining? Look, I don't think it should be a 51st state. We are way too big of a country to be considered one state. I think that would be absolutely ridiculous. Maybe divide it into 4 or 5 would be more reasonable considering like New Brunswick is the size of Maine, maybe not in population, but some of them. And I just know that because I grew up in the East Coast in New Brunswick and we went to Maine a lot. But the trade deficit, what he means, basically we export more to the US than we import. So that's the trade deficit means that the US gets more from us than we get from them. So we're not at a equally, I guess, equally exchange. But someone I'm just going to read some of the comments here. Okay, so Maria says he's good move for Mark and the US citizens, but he's still a two-face POS. um I do agree. Like I said, don't 100% trust him, but also as someone who used to be like formerly on the left, who's kind of awakened and completely changed my worldview, like drastically changed my worldview, I have a soft spot for people who do, especially if it's an authentic change of worldview. Considering he's hanging out with the people that are saying what he just said, I honestly think this is his new mindset on free speech because, again, you become who you surround yourself with. And so, trade deficit, uh, Canada Strong said, I love the US, but no 51st state. And then Maria says, I haven't read it yet. So Trump knows exactly what he's doing. And in part, I believe he is trying to reunite and rally Canadians against our weak government. Yeah, that's what I was saying before. Like with all the previous stuff, it's almost like a calling to get someone stronger. And now the Canadian people are demanding we have a leader that's strong enough to stand up to the US, like to basically put a hard line. No, we're our own country. We're going to defend ourselves. But at the same time, like like he says, Canada has more to benefit from the US than the US from Canada. So when it comes to trade, when it comes to defense, to a lot of, and I don't mean as in joining, I just mean in the positive relationship between the US Canada. Now, there are positives if this was to happen. A lot of Canadians don't like the cold. I'm going to talk about my own positive. I really don't like the cold. And when it's minus 30 outside, I'm like, oh, Florida looks really nice right now. So it'd be easier to move to a warmer climate. I think you'd see a mass exodus to warmer climate. I mean, that's already happening with snowbirds that go and stay in Florida for the winter. But I'm so sorry. I'm wondering how many would actually move because it'd be a lot easier. You'd get more gun rights. I don't know. But then Canada has a very different culture than the US. Not like hugely different, but still. Would that get affected? Maybe, maybe not. A lot of the power with how the states are governed is governed at a state level, not necessarily federally. So I guess we would still be governing everything at a state level. Again, I don't want to be lumped in with Toronto and Montreal and and the people who already control the rest of Canada. So I don't like this idea of a 51st state. I would rather it be more than one so that like Alberta, Saskatchewan, parts of BC, parts of Manitoba could team up. Maybe the Northwest Territory could become one. And then like Ontario, Quebec could be their own, or Ontario could be their own, Quebec could be their own, Atlantic Canada could be one, and the rest of BC, mainly Vancouver, could be their own. So maybe that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states. I would like that idea more. If Canada becomes 5 different states. But Sven K said, "We are already American in so many ways." And then he also says here, "The Canadian charter is useless as we all say the truckers and we all saw." I think that's what you meant to say. With the truckers, how they just stomped on our rights and closed our bank accounts. Yeah, we've talked about that before, how the charters just was meaningless during COVID. And then Maria says, "We would have a constitution which is way better than our charter bill and rights." I see another positive too is like Americans have a lot of like castle law and much stronger property rights than we do in Canada. If somebody breaks into your house in the US, like you have the right to defend yourself, you have the right to defend your property. And in Canada, we don't have the right to defend our property. We have a right to defend ourselves, but when it comes to protecting your assets with the life you've built, you don't have that protection in Canada. And and I honestly believe because the US has that, it deters a lot of crime versus in Canada, I don't know a single person, like almost everyone that I know has had a break and enter at one point in time or something stolen out of their house, out of their vehicle. Like it's becoming so much more common. Like every farmer that I've known know have had like their properties rummaged through and things like that. And you I mean, it happens in the US too, but probably not to the same extent because there's more to lose. There's more of a risk. People have that right to defend themselves. And there's obviously negative things too, but I like thinking about the positive. I find this interesting. But and I did a post too about like a lot of people are calling people who are kind of mulling this idea, some finding positive things about it, like traitors to Canada. And I made a post about patriotism in Canada. You know what? I never would have even thought about this or considered it as like anything positive until what happened during COVID. Like it's completely changed my view of Canada, my view of our government, my view of the citizens of Canada after seeing what they were capable of doing during COVID. Like it completely shattered what I thought of Canada. And and it hasn't been built back up. I I was talking with my husband about it today and he was mentioning an interaction with that he had with a patient and he didn't give me details of the patient, but he just gave me details of this interaction. And he says this patient was someone who didn't get vaccinated, and like they were talking about how they lost the trust in our our court system, the trust in our government, the trust in our healthcare system, like just their entire worldview completely shattered during COVID, and now they just so sad about like they're grieving what they've lost. And I think a lot of people, like a good chunk of the population, still feel that exact same way. Most of the people who didn't get vaccinated will forever remember how they were treated by their government, by healthcare workers, by everyone. And they'll forever remember that the court system didn't protect us from the encroachment on our charter of rights and freedom. If anything, many of the judges were pushing for it and were biased in itself. And I think a lot of people have lost trust in everything. And when they see something like this, where there was a country that pushed back a little bit and had some states that were like freer, that weren't putting vaccine passport, that said, like you had some state that said if you mandate a vaccine, you're gonna get charged. Like so when you see that maybe as a little bit of hope of restoring trust into structure or a system of ideas or a system of governing. And I'll never call these people traitors. what I will do is recognize that they feel the way they do now because of the way they were treated by a majority of the population at one point or another. Most of the people don't believe that what happened is right now, especially now knowing everything we know. Most people kind of try to pretend it never happened because they're ashamed of their own behavior. And that's why you don't see like a lot of the politicians talking about this. They want to pretend it never happened. They don't even want to address it. And I think that's a huge mistake, because I can tell you the people who didn't get vaccinated will never forget about it. They'll never move on. Not until things are put in place to make sure it never happens again. And people, especially the people who were most to blame for all the behavior, are have some accountability. And what I'm talking about is the companies that lied, like the Pfizer, Moderna, the people who work within the healthcare system, who lied to politicians, who gave them false information, whether it came from Pfizer or Moderna. And the worst offenders, even politicians. I think accountability needs to occur so that it never happens again. You want Canadians to be patriotic again? Start recognizing where we failed as a country. There. Rant over. Next subject. Ah. Okay. So Pierre Poilievre is being talked a lot about in the US right now. I'm just going to see. I have a lot of comments. I'll read some of them after, but I'll keep moving on this subject. We're already 46 minutes in. Pierre Poilievre is being talked a lot about in the US. Fox News is seen here at as and I do have the article up here. I just gotta figure out. So Fox News wrote an article. Who is Pierre Poilievre, Canada's conservative leader seeking to become the next prime minister after Trudeau exits? So I did click on it. I'll see if I can share it with you guys. If you can go and read it. If you search, it's on Fox News. If you search Pierre Poilievre, it probably would come up. So Justin Trudeau's announcement on Monday morning that he will step down as Liberal Party leader. Whoever succeeds him will face official opposition leader Pierre Poilievre, whose Conservative Party has nearly 3 times the support of committed voters, 47% compared to 18% for the Liberals in this year's general election. So they're talking about the polling. And it talks a bit about Pierre Poilievre. And he became, I guess, first elected to the House of Commons at 45 years old in 2004. So it would have been 20 years ago. Before that, he worked for the government too. I think he worked for Stockwell Day for a bit, and a few other people as well. And then he ran and got elected, and has seen his party grow in popularity as Canadians have grown tired of 53-year-old Trudeau, whose Liberal government formed in 2015. Bring home the Canadian dream has been one of the Conservatives' major theme, and Poilievre has cast the Liberals as governing with an extreme radical ideology, which he describes as basically authoritarian socialism in a recent 90-minute interview with popular podcast host Jordan Peterson. So they kind of refer to the Jordan Peterson. You know what? Having Jordan Peterson in the US is actually good, because he is still Canadian. He's going to cover Canadian content, and it's kind of getting the eyes of a lot of Americans, which is really good. People are sick and tired of grandiosity, said Poilievre. Horrendous utopian wokeism serves, he says, egotistical personalities on top rather than common people. Trudeau has said that Poilievre wants to make Canada great again, comparing the Tory leader to incoming President Donald Trump and his Make America Great Again mantra. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I keep yawning. But while Poilievre's populist messaging has generated comparisons to Trump's political approach, the Canadian Conservative leader has pushed back the president-elect's recent comments about making Canada the 51st state. Ooh, I didn't know what he had said. Okay, this is what he said. I have the strength and smarts to stand up for this country, and my message to incoming president is that first and foremost, Canada will never be the 51st state of the US. Poilievre said in an interview with Canadian broadcaster. So this was before Christmas. The incoming Trump administration will almost assuredly deal with the Poilievre government as the Conservatives are poised to win the next Canadian election, which could come as early as this spring. When the House of Commons resumes sitting on March 24th, the opposition party are likely to defeat the minority Liberal government in a vote of no confidence, which would trigger a national vote. So on March 24th is when, so they prorogue government until March 24th. Yesterday, when I did my show, I didn't know till when, but they have prorogued it. So that's when they come back. So in his interview with Peterson, he acknowledged that Trump, who has proposed a 25% tariff against Canadian export, negotiates very aggressively and he likes to win. But as Prime Minister, the Conservative leader said that he would seek a great deal that will make both countries safer, richer, and stronger. So interesting. It continues on a bit. He also told Peterson that Canada sells its oil and gas to the US at an enormous discount, which he characterized as a ripoff, in which Canada is ripping itself off, which is true. You know why we do? Because we don't have the processing capacity in Canada because it's been stifled. You have like some of you don't know, but New Brunswick has this massive refinery, but all the oil that gets refined in New Brunswick comes from the Middle East. Instead of getting the Canadian oil from Alberta pipeline to New Brunswick, they get it shipped from the Middle East. So we're supporting oil and gas or oil from a foreign country that doesn't process it or export or get it out of the ground as clean as Canada does. And a lot of people have this misconception too that Canada's just like tar sands oil, that we don't have like regular oil too. No, we have both. We have regular oil, we have the oil that's in the sand that's used for different purposes. We also have natural gas. But a lot of people don't even know that. Unless you've kind of been out west. Like I remember when I moved out west, I thought like the oil and gas industry was all like dirty, not processed as clean. It's not the case. And not only that, our carbon capture technology is the best in the world. So we're able to produce oil and gas at a cleaner rate than almost all, if not all, other countries. Therefore, if you stifle oil and gas in Canada, that means more oil and gas is going to be produced in countries that don't have the carbon technology that we do have in Canada. And that means the world's going to get more polluted. I find it so ironic and so insane. All the people who kind of push for stifling the oil and gas we have in Canada, when in reality, the more we produce, the less of other countries who don't produce it as well as we do will produce and create more carbon pollution. With I don't even call it carbon pollution. That's another discussion for another day. CO2 is plant food. It's not pollution. I even that whole thing needs to be completely dismantled. But it's anyways. I'd like to do a whole episode on that alone. But you can't come to me and say, "Oh, climate change, we need to shut off like oil and gas in Canada." while at the same time you're shutting off oil and gas in Canada and getting oil and gas from countries who don't do it as clean and as efficient as we do, like the Middle East, for example. Anyways, so interesting. It's good to see them talk about Pierre Poilievre. There's another video I want to share. I remember watching.
Yes.
What are the steps?
Yes.
I like when things, messaging and stuff are simplified so that Canadians can understand easier what it means. And not everyone has had like an economics one, micro or macro economics 101 class. So they might not understand how inflation is essentially like another tax. That how inflation makes the poorest people poorer and makes the people who are very rich with a lot of assets richer. Anyways, Pierre Poilievre shares a video. He's at some like a plant somewhere or a facility. I don't know exactly where he is, but it's a 2-minute video and I think it's worth listening to it because I think it's good to understand. Here, sorry, just give me a second. I've just realized I need to get the video ready. I didn't have it up top here. So, and I will show the tweet before I share it. So, Elon Musk has been tweeting a lot about Pierre Poilievre. So, he tweeted this video out, said perfectly articulated. He quote tweeted the video. I don't know who this person is, but that person initially posted it and Elon Musk quote tweeted it, but now I'm going to play it.
Yes.
What are the steps that need to be taken to fix the damages done to inflation?
First and foremost, stop the overspending. Inflation, high taxes, deficits, high interest rates are all symptoms. The disease is overspending. When governments spend too much money, there's only 3 ways to get it. One is to raise your taxes. The other is to borrow, which means that they'll tax you more later on. And the third way is to print money. Now, printing money seems like a painless way to pay for things, but it's very simple. If you have 10 apples and $10 in the economy, it's a bucket apple. If you double the number of dollars in the economy to 20, you still only have 10 apples. You're not twice as rich. It's just that each apple costs twice as much. And that is a tax on the working people because it chews up the purchasing power of your paycheck, only to pay for excessive government spending, and it balloons the asset values of the billionaires. So it's a real transfer from the have-nots to the have-yachts. Inflation is the worst and most immoral tax. It always results from government creating cash. Our government has created about $700 billion of cash in the last 3 years. So we used to have $1.8 trillion of bills, coins, and bank deposits. That was about 3-4 years ago. Now it's up to 2.5 trillion. So that's extra cash, but the economy has only grown by 4%. So the real things in the economy have only grown by 4%. The cash has grown by 40. So the money supply is growing 10 times faster than the stuff money buys, which creates a bidding war. And that's what's driving up inflation. We have to cap government spending with a dollar for dollar law that requires my ministers find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending, so that they go into their departments, find the waste and mismanagement. They want to spend more here, they have to spend less there, or get a bargain here and there to bring both under budget. Then and only then will we stop the money printing, borrowing, and overtaxation and wrestle inflation to the ground. Thank you.
So, I remember seeing that video. So that stat that the example he used, a dollar for an apple. If the spending goes up, then it becomes $2 per apple. He used a stat. He says the economy is only producing 4% more material, but the spending has gone up by, what was the number he said here? I'm just going to. I just got to find it. Yeah, the economy has grown by 4%, but the cash has grown by 40%. So if you consider that that one, you don't have more apples, you only have 4% more apples, but yet you have 40% more spending. And that's what we've seen in the last few years. And even just like just before Christmas when Chrystia Freeland stepped down, they released how much they had spent. Their max, I think it was that they were supposed to spend was 40 billion, and they went over it by 21 point something billion. We don't have that money coming in taxes, which means they're printing it, which means everything goes way up. Everything. And you can have like these experts that tell you you're better off financially than you were before Trudeau came. Everyone knows how much they make, how much their check is, and how much they're going in the hole, how expensive everything's gotten, how they can't afford. Most people are not even living paycheck to paycheck anymore. Most people are going in debt every single week. They're not even equalizing anymore. It's going in debt. So the Liberals can push the talking points all they want. People are feeling it. And that's why you're seeing a massive change in support politically from the Liberals going to Conservatives. I'm just going to see what the comments are. Well, thank you, Wayne. There's a lot of people that don't agree with you. So Wayne says, you're such a genuine, good-hearted soul, Nadine. Your common sense attitude is what makes you so special. Thank you. Love listening to you. There are people who really don't like listening to me. So it's good to have a balance of hate versus positive. You know what? I have to say, though, I haven't seen many negative comments on my live stream. Most of the people, they probably don't want it to be blasted on the screen here, but most people are too afraid when they get kind of shown, but push through a bill before. Yeah, Maria said they rapidly pushed through a bill before Christmas break that funds its government until March 30th, 2025. They knew proroguing was coming. I think I agree with that. I think it was in the plans all along. Okay. Rory said, I don't know if you're saying it to Pierre's video, probably because no, this was like 10 minutes ago. Rory, were you talking about Pierre or were you talking about Mark Zuckerberg? And I know I've heard this before. I've actually seen Pierre stand for freedom during COVID. I've seen posts and I've actually posted about them um, on Twitter. And I also recognize that at the time, every time anyone did in that party when O'Toole was in charge, anytime anyone stood for freedom, they got demoted and punished. My MP is one of those people. So like I remember she had a position, I don't know, was a shadow minister, but she got demoted when she started talking like pro freedom. Same thing with Pierre Poilievre. So we can say, yeah, they didn't talk the way we wanted to, but we have to understand the circumstances they were under. And I knew a lot of MPs that felt the exact same way as us. I know a lot of MPs who aren't even vaccinated and couldn't even enter the house. But they were silenced by O'Toole, who led the party like an authoritarian liberal leader. And it wasn't until he got booted out that they were able to openly speak freely. And I've seen Pierre defend many times the truckers, speak against what was happening during COVID. So I should probably do an episode on it. Do I think he could have done more? Yeah. Yeah. I wish all of them had stood out at the top of their lungs, screamed as loud as they could. But I also recognize that government is downstream from society. You want government to go a certain direction. It's up to us, every single one of us, to speak out loudly ourselves and and show that the public is going in a certain direction. It's up to us to sway public opinion, to talk to our neighbors, to talk to our people. And I honestly believe that the convoy did that with the general public. It made people realize they weren't alone, and it emboldened people to start speaking out publicly, and it came out in massive numbers. So, do I like when a politician comes out ahead of the Overton window and speaks out and stands on their conviction? Yeah, and there was some who did. We just can't ignore that either. So, okay, oil sand is very dirty per se. Use a lot of fresh water to process, but we do have a lot of it. No, see, that's the thing. The old way of doing it when it first started, yes, but the new processes aren't like that anymore. And if you go back and look, like in Fort McMurray, they're reclaiming the land. They have different ways of processing this, but most Canadians aren't even aware of it because they all kind of remember the old like documentary on how like, and at the same time, you got to understand who was making that. Like the documentaries and stuff were funded by people who didn't want Canadian oil to be valuable. And so it was like American companies who were funding that so that American oil would be more worth it than Canadian oil. So you got to understand like what's the bias behind all of this stuff. But yeah, I've been kind of involved with groups on learning more about our Canadian oil and gas, and like Modern Miracle Network is one of them. And our processes for oil and gas is not what it used to be. So if you have that picture in your mind of everything being dirty, everything polluting and stuff, it's not like that anymore. We've had huge advancement even with the oil sand that we have. So huge advancement in how it's being processed. And some of it's because of the public pressure as well on it. And again, public opinion was very much swayed back then when all of that stuff was being released. And now there's not really anybody who's kind of updating the public as to the new processes. It's something I wanted to do. I talked to Michael Binion, he's the president of Modern Miracle Network, about potentially going to Fort McMurray and documenting and doing like a mini series on Canadian oil and gas, and just kind of updating the public on how we actually do it and why Canada should produce more, not less, and how that can lead to a better planet as a whole just because of the technology that we have. So, but yeah, okay, so not Trump, Tucker, not Tucker, Elon Musk tweeted that, but he also tweeted something else. The epic apple eating episode. I'm just going to bring it up here. So if you haven't been, I think it's here. Yeah. If you haven't seen this video, it's epic. It's a massive
on the topic. I mean, in terms of your
how to deal with media. There's actually a backstory to this video too that a lot of people don't know. I know I was kind of explaining this backstory by an MP at an event that I went. And so this interview it wasn't like a recorded interview that was going to play on TV. This interview was supposed to be like a written article. So it wasn't supposed to be like released or anything, but because mainstream media often twists things, Pierre Poilievre's team always records every interview he does, whether it's over the phone, whether it's in person, even if it's for a written article, they always record everything. So Pierre's eating an apple because this is not supposed to be like on camera. It's not supposed to be audio recorded. It's supposed to be a written article. So it's kind of funny. But then what happened is his team were watching this and they're like, Pierre, we need to release this. Like, this is like good content. Like, so I think, I don't know who's the first person to release it. I don't think it was Pierre himself. I think it was someone from his team. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was him. I'd like to find who was the first one to post it, but let's listen in on here. A masterclass on how to deal with media.
on the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean,
What do you mean by that? Give me an example.
certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological spectrum.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways,
I don't really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
like who?
I don't know who, but
well, you're the one who asked the question, so yeah. You must know somebody.
Okay, I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you talking about? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not sure. I don't know what your question is.
Then forget that. Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense. Okay. Common sense for a change. We're going to make common sense common in this country. We don't have any common sense in the current government. The guy prints $600 billion, grows our money supply by 32% in 3 years. That's growing the money 8 times faster than the economy. No wonder we have the worst inflation in 4 decades. I'm going to cap spending, cut waste so that we can balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates. You'll want to be able to pay your mortgage again. You want to be able to afford rent. Then you have to vote for Pierre Poilievre, because I'm the only one with a common sense plan that will bring back the buying power of your paycheck.
So that remember the video before he said 40%. So this was like over a year ago. So it was 32% then. Now it's up to 40%. But interesting. But see, that's the thing. That's what media does. They try to paint a narrative, and they were doing that with Pierre in this interview. Even though it was supposed to be written, he's definitely trying to paint a narrative. Maybe it was to kind of, I don't know, throw Pierre off his game. I don't know, but it was interesting to see that interaction, and the guy, instead of just like going to his question, again, painting a narrative before even asking the question. I'm glad that Pierre is actually challenging that, and you're seeing him do that more with mainstream media. And like I've experienced that myself too. When I was interviewed by like mainstream media, especially like after my call with the premier of Saskatchewan, they very much were trying to paint a narrative. They stayed away from the fact that my husband was a doctor and we weren't okay with what was happening during COVID. They stayed away from the fact that I was a former RCMP police officer. Anything that gave me any bit of credibility to speaking up to the issues, they avoided completely. And they painted a narrative. They called me, what was it, right-wing wacko or right-wing extremist. And at the time, like I voted for Trudeau in 2015. I used to be a lefty, and I talk about that all the time. But you're painting me as like an extreme, like right-wing extremist. Like I will tell you, the right-wing extremists don't even like me. I'm hated by both the far left and the far right. So I can't be far right. I'm hated by both of them. But it didn't matter. They were painting a narrative in their reporting, and that's what they do. And that's what this guy was trying to do, especially if they're more left-leaning bias. You see that happening. It's a classic technique that you see happening. Before they ask a question, they make a bunch of statements that aren't even accurate or true. So I don't agree. So Sandra says his arrogance is cruel and heartless, in penning his interview to the wall. Love to strut his egotistical intelligence as a common sense. I don't agree. I think this is exactly how you need to deal with a media that has gone on for several years and has misled and fooled the entire public. And I think the only way you address it is to actually expose it. I was taught never punch down. So when you have somebody attacking you or whatever, if they're and it's not even like on an equal playing ground as in individual to individual. When you're getting interviewed by mainstream media, it's not one individual reporter. It's all of mainstream media. And I don't think Pierre here is punching down. Yeah, it's one reporter, but that one reporter is behaving like every single reporter, and they have a really massive influence on the entire population. I don't think he's punching down in this particular situation. I think he's addressing the greater problem that mainstream media has created one of the biggest problem in society, and on a massive scale, on brainwashing the public, on attacking just common sense. Like I could talk about a million different aspects that they have done that. COVID is a perfect example of that. They brainwashed the public into so much fear that the general public had mob mentality. And that wasn't necessarily from the government's office. It came from mainstream media, and then the public was demanding all of these mandates, these changes. The public was championing it because they got brainwashed so much. I don't see it punching down when you're talking about this particular interaction. I see him as punching against the entire army of mainstream media that doesn't push the common sense narrative. But talk about painting a narrative, just what you are doing. Opinions are like rear ends. Everyone has one. Good for thee, not for me. Well, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. I just saw what mainstream media did and what they were doing in this interview. We don't need to agree on everything, you and I. We clearly disagree on a lot of stuff. but I disagree. I don't think this was arrogance. I think it's confidence. Someone who's had enough with mainstream media painting a narrative, who's pushing back. And I think we need to see that way more with politicians. And Maria says, mainstream has not earned any respect. And look, my show is not non-biased. I'm not mainstream media. I'm a political commentator. My show is called Your Daily Dose of Salt and Light with Nadine Ness. I am a conservative commentator. I'm not non-biased. I actually have bias in my description of my show because I am not mainstream media. Do I talk about things that are happening in the media? Yeah, I do so from a conservative Christian perspective. And it's not for everyone. There are political commentators on the left. There's some on the right. There's a lot more on the left than there is on the right. And I'm trying to balance that in Canada. And okay, so that was the video that Elon Musk is highlighted. Again, he did that on he called it another masterpiece. So there's going to be, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that kind of content. Not necessarily that exactly that, but I think it's emboldening people to be more, to get more to reaching the public and doing so in a more fair area. You want mainstream media to be treated with respect, start reporting in a non-biased way. And start holding the current government accountable too, which that's what they're supposed to do. But yet they give a pass to Trudeau nonstop. They don't barely talk about any scandal. And even when they do, they try to defend it. You saw like some of the biggest scandal that should have made a government fall didn't, because mainstream media covered their bums. But SNC Lavalin is a perfect example of that. Okay, next topic. Robbie Starbuck. If you don't follow Robbie, I'm going to show you his profile. So Robbie Starbuck, he was potentially going to come to Canada. We were hoping to do a fundraiser for Unified Grassroots, a nonprofit organization that I founded and am the president of, we were supposed to do a fundraiser, but the speaking fee and the rental fee for the location was so much. And at the time, I was afraid that not everyone would know who he is, so we might not sell out. So there was huge concern. He might still come, but at the time, he had been known for the movie The War on Children. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you do. It talks about the gender ideology and what it's doing to our children in the school and stuff, and just the sexualization of children. So he did this documentary, but he started a new project or a new avenue, and he's been investigating companies. And I'm just going to move this over here. Give me a sec. I just realized it's a little bit off. And he's been investigating the DEI policies that are entrenched within big corporations. So one of the first ones he did a expose on was John Deere. And then John Deere reversed their DEI policies that they had incorporated in the company. Walmart was one of the more recent ones that he started doing, like investigating into what's happening. There's a lot of whistleblowers from these companies that are coming in and letting him know some of the insane stuff that's happening around DEI woke ideology being entrenched in these organizations. Anyways, the most recent one is McDonald's. So the food chain, the fast food chain. So he talks, he does a video, but I won't play. Well, how long is the video? 4 minutes. Where are we at with the show? Maybe I can play it. But he does explain it here, so I'll read that. Big news, McDonald's is ending a number of woke DEI policies today. Now let me tell you what's changing and how it happened. 3 days ago, I told McDonald's that I'd be doing a story on woke policies there. Today, they've announced the following 3 change. Hiring. They will end their diversity goals for how many each race they hire. Many, myself included, have referred to these types of goals as quotas because these goals often operate as quotas that discriminate against white job applicants. They'll no longer participate in HRC's woke corporate equality index scoring system that forces the trans agenda into the workplace in exchange for a perfect score. They also won't participate in other third-party surveys. So just so people know what that HRC woke corporate equality index, this was something that was being pushed by big organization like BlackRock and stuff. So they would score these companies as to how do they fare with the woke corporate equality index. So they would score them, and then they would determine where the investments go into. So it was kind of tied to Wall Street and stuff. So it was a way to kind of push this woke agenda on all corporations in America. So Robbie's been kind of exposing all of this. And now when he does an expose, it usually hurts the stock market of that company because people are like, I don't want to support this stuff. I didn't know they were doing that. I'm going to start spending my money with this organization. So it's having a counter effect. Say, let's get this woke ideology out of the corporation. So the fact that they're saying they're not going to participate in that, you see more and more companies pull out of that. I think it was a way for BlackRock and those big entities that kind of own most of the world to actually hurt and damage the US. But that's more of a conspiracy on its own. Anyways, but is it a conspiracy or is it actually happening? The next thing is supplier diversity. They're ending the DEI pledge for their supply chain. That means no diversity quotas or goal will exist for how they choose to prioritize suppliers. Focus will be on merit, which I think that's great. Their diversity team will be evolving this year into a simply an inclusion team. I explain in the video how I feel about this. As our first corporate flip of 2025, I just want to say Happy New Year. So like I said, he's approached this with a lot of other companies last year. So he's saying this is the first one of 2025. And then he says, our campaigns are so effective that we're getting the biggest companies on earth to change their policies without me even posting a story exposing their woke policies first. Companies can see that America wants sanity back. The era of wokeness is dying right in front of our eyes. The landscape of corporate America is quickly shifting to sanity and neutrality. We are the trend, not the anomaly anymore. And he makes a good point. It's not like he's demanding that everything get pushed to the conservative ideology, conservative mindset. He's just saying this should be neutral. We shouldn't be pushing political or woke ideology to begin with. It should have been neutral from the beginning. And he says, we're winning, and one by one, we will bring sanity back to corporate America. So McDonald's is also in Canada, so that affects us too. Okay, next story. There's a video. I'm going to see if I can find it here. A lot of people are talking about this. I had to share it. The video. I just got to get the right screen open. So it was like a swearing in of some kind where Kamala was there, but I wanted to add a little bit of details to it that you may not have seen. You might have seen this video.
Yeah, we're white.
Just skip it.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States? Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Sure.
Look at her behavior.
That way just a little bit. There you go. Okay, so much. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Hold it. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
She's so bothered by him not shaking her hand.
Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Here. That reaction, like, she made a big deal about it. What you don't see in this video is the next thing I'm going to show you. So this man has a cane. So he's using his cane to hold himself. And then he's holding with the Bible or whatever that book is. I think it's the Bible. He's holding that in the hand. So he's got his two hands taken. It's not like he can shake her hand to begin with. He's holding his cane. So his hand's not free. And she's like making a big deal out of it. Like, did she not realize he had a cane? But anyways, I've seen a lot of takes on this. A lot of people are saying he just responded the way America feels about Kamala. I thought that was kind of a little bit comical, but I wanted to add that because I know it was trending and I know a lot of people were sharing that. Some were comical, some were, but someone said, like this one said, she knew he had a cane and still tried to shake his hand. I don't know if she knew. I don't know. Does she look down at the cane? Let's see. I don't think she knew based on her reaction.
Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Sure.
And based on her reaction, I don't think she knew. But and if you look at the angle, I'm getting like the police detective side of me, and based on the angle, the book, the Bible, I think it's the Bible, would have been blocking it if you look at the direct angle. So I don't know. Anyways, I just saw that and I thought it was comical. Oh, one last thing, and then I'll go. Elon's been posting a lot about the UK, and I saw this post, and I thought I would share it with you guys because we don't know everyone's story all the time. We think we know everyone's story, but we don't. Elon's been posting about the US. Obviously, he lives there. He's been posting about Canada. He has ties to Canada too. His mother was from, well, she lived in South Africa, but her family grew up in Saskatchewan, Canada. So if I'm not mistaken, she's a Canadian citizen. So, and Elon spent some time at a farm just, I think it's southeast of Regina, where his family grew up. Like he would spend his summers there. He's talked about it before. But anyways, he also has tied to Britain. So he says, my British grandmother, Cora Amelia Robinson, was an important part of my childhood. She was very strict, but also kind, and I could always count on her. She grew up very poor in England during the Great Depression, only to be bombed in World War II. To earn money for food, she cleaned houses, leaving with me a lasting respect for those who do. My Nana was one of the poor working class girls with no one to protect her who might have been abducted in present day Britain. So he's been bringing a lot of attention to the gang rape or the grooming gangs, whatever. I don't even want to use that term because it's not just grooming. They're actually sexually abusing girls and young girls at that. But he's been bringing a lot of attention to that. I'd like to do soon a deep dive into all of that and just what I've kind of uncovered. It's going to take a bit of time to organizing, but it's personal for him. He has a tie to Britain. So I just thought that was kind of neat how he brought that into the conversation, because we can understand why he would talk about it. You have the UK government that is saying, oh, he's trying to do foreign interference in our election because he's calling out the leader, the prime minister of the UK. And I just find it so ridiculous because the Labour Party, the government currently in power, there was helping the Democrats in America and actually flew over to America to help with the campaigning in the US. You want to talk about foreign interference? How about that? You have someone, and somebody suggested too that based on his grandmother being British, Elon Musk could actually get British citizenship or England, whatever it is, UK citizenship. And but yeah, so they pointed that out. I think it might have been in the comments here. Here, I'll just see if I can find it. I don't know if all the stuff that's posted, but I saw a post basically explaining that he's actually eligible. And I think it was in the comments. Yeah, here you go. You may be able to apply for British citizenship by double descent if you and one of your parents were not in a Commonwealth country and you were born before 1915, or you or one of your parents were born in a former British territory, or you had a grandmother or mother who was married to a British man before 1949. So that would fit probably in that. It's interesting though. Very, very interesting. But anyways, I will leave you guys with that. I still haven't started doing the small clips of the show. I was focusing today on getting Instagram ready and running on Instagram, I guess TikTok as well, but it didn't quite work out as well as I had hoped on TikTok. But anyways, hopefully I'll have TikTok working by tomorrow. I've got to do another live video on TikTok for 25 minutes or more. So I might do that at some point today. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, and then it should work. I just don't have the setting unless it's been updated and you can't anymore. But anyways, I will let you guys go and I will be back tomorrow at 12 for another episode of your daily dose of salt and light with myself. Nadine S. Oh, before you go, if you're not subscribed to me and you want to get notified, you can set your notification, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, to be notified of when I go live. So if you don't want to miss an episode, you can do so. If you're not already subscribed to like wherever platform you're watching this from, I highly, or follow whatever the button is. I highly recommend you do. And yeah. Okay, well, I will let you guys go and you guys have a good day. See ya.